morning, children. We'll continue with the lesson. It is page 80 we are doing now. An Angel in Disguise by T.S. Arthur. Now we read about a woman. She was a drunkard. She didn't care for her 3 small children. And when she died, all the villagers came and expressed verbal sympathy. Nobody really wanted to help the small children and take them home and provide a good childhood for them. We read about Farmer Jones. He took John the eldest to work in his farm. Then the second, Kate, a very small girl, she was taken by Mrs. Ellis to be a maid in her house, to do the work in her house. Then the last child, Maggie, she was bedridden. She couldn't move about because she had a fall from the window had injured her spine. And nobody wanted to take her. And she is frightened whether they will leave her alone in that hut. It's an old broken hut. And we saw how Joey Thompson felt sympathy for her and took her home. The only problem was his wife. She was because they were childless. She was a bit angry and bitter, and he thought she would not allow the child to be at home. That was the only reason why he hesitated for a little while. But then he did not want to leave Maggie alone. He felt sympathy for her. He took her in her arms. When he held her in her arms, there was a bond of sympathy, a bond of love between Joe and Maggie. Joe considered Maggie as his daughter and Maggie considered Joey as her father. So that bond, that relationship was formed between them. We are on page 80 and the wife is angry. Jane is the wife. She is angry because he brought this sick child to their home. And who is going to look after her? You haven't brought home that sick brat. Brat is miserable, poor, naughty child. Anger and astonishment were in the tone of Mrs. Joey Thompson. Her face was in a flame. Her face was red with anger. And he doesn't argue with her and says, he did not say, I will keep Maggie at home, but he is very diplomatic. He talks to her very gently but very firmly, very determined, in a determined way. Notice what he says here. I think women's hearts are sometimes very hard, said Joey. Women do not show any sympathy to those who are in need. Usually Joey Thompson got out of his wife's way or kept rigidly silent and non-combative when she fired up on any subject. Fired up when she was angry. He usually kept quiet. He did not argue with her. But this time, he had firmly decided that Maggie should remain in his house. And he is very diplomatic, the way he deals with his wife's anger. It was with some surprise, therefore, that she now encountered a firmly set countenance and a resolute pair of eyes. Jane is also surprised at the very determined way in which Joe spoke to her. Determined but very kind, very reasonably he spoke to her. And she is a bit surprised. When she encountered means when she met, a firmly set countenance. Countenance is face. He has decided, his face showed that he had decided to keep Maggie. And a resolute pair of eyes. Resolute also, very firm, very determined. He will not change his mind. And Jane replies, Jane is the wife, women's hearts are not half so hard as men's. Joe saw by a quick intuition. Intuition is a sudden feeling, which is often right, that his resolute bearing had impressed his wife. That is firmness, that is determination. The way he spoke to her, the wife was impressed. And he answered quickly and with real indignation. This time he's a bit angry because he knew that his wife is also surprised at his determination. Be that as it may, every woman at the funeral turned her eyes steadily away from the sixth child's face. And when the cart went off with her dead mother, hurried away and left her alone in that old hut, with the sun not an hour in the sky. It is dark, it is going to be dark, in 1 hour it is going to be dark. After the mother was taken in the cart to be buried, all the villagers, even the women, some of them did not even look at Maggie. They left the house immediately, and only Maggie is there in bed. She can't move about. She is helpless. Where were John and Kate? Asked Mrs. Thompson. What happened to the other two children, the elder ones? Farmer Jones tossed John into his wagon. Tossed John. He threw him into the wagon just as if he were some furniture or something, and drove off. Kate went home with Mrs. Ellis, but nobody wanted the poor sick one. Send her to the poorhouse was the cry. All the villagers shouted or cried that Maggie should be sent to the poorhouse. Poorhouse is a place where orphans are kept. They are not given good food. They were not treated properly at that time. Why didn't you let her go then? So his wife is asking, why didn't you let her go to the poorhouse? What did you bring her here for? What was the reason you brought Maggie here? She can't walk to the poorhouse, said Joe. Somebody's arms must carry her, and mine are strong enough for that task. How can she go to the poorhouse? She has to be carried. And Joe said that his arms were strong, so he carried her and brought her. Then the wife is asking, then why didn't you keep on? Why didn't you go straight to the poorhouse? Why did you stop here? Why did you have to bring Maggie to our house? Demanded the wife. Because I'm not apt to go on a fool's errand. The guardians must first be seen and permit obtained. Fool's errand means a useless task, a useless errand, a useless thing. Errand is you go buy something or do something, that is errand. And this will be a useless errand. If he takes Maggie directly to the poorhouse, they might refuse. Because the guardians are the people who run the poorhouse, they have to be seen first, and permission has to be obtained for Maggie to be kept in the poorhouse. All that has to be done. So Joey says, I'm not a fool to go like that straight away to the poorhouse. We have to make arrangements. We have to get permission before taking her. There was no gainsaying in this. Now Jane could not argue. She had to accept what her husband said. Then the next question from the wife is, when will you see the guardians? Was asked with impressible impatience. She's getting impatient, she's getting angry. She wanted Maggie to be removed immediately. Tomorrow. That is, Joe promised that he will go to the poorhouse tomorrow. Why put it off till tomorrow? Go at once for the permit and get the whole thing off your hands tonight. Have nothing to do with Maggie. Go today to the poorhouse, make arrangements and put her there immediately, at once. Now notice how the wheelwright responds. Wheelwright is Joe. He is a person who repairs wheels. That is why he is called wheelwright. Notice the spelling of wheelwright. Jane, said the wheelwright with an impressiveness of tone that greatly subdued his wife. This time his wife had to give in to what Joe said, because he was determined and decided, and he spoke more strongly than he usually spoke to his wife. I read in the Bible sometimes and find much said about little children. How the Savior rebuked the disciples who would not receive them. Then he took an example from the Bible. Mothers brought their children to Jesus to bless them, and the disciples were angry, and they asked the mothers not to disturb Jesus. But Jesus called the mothers, took the children in his arms and blessed them. How the Savior rebuked means scolded the disciples who would not receive them, who wanted the children to be turned away, to be taken away. How he took them, he is Jesus, how he took them up in his arms and blessed them. And how he said, he is Jesus, how Jesus said, whoever gave them even a cup of cold water should not go unrewarded. Even if you do something, even if it is a very small thing like giving some water to somebody, it is noted in heaven and you will be rewarded for it. Now it is a small thing for us to keep this poor motherless little one for a single night, to be kind to her for a single night, to make her life comfortable for a single night. Note how cleverly Joyce speaks. So as I told you before, he is very determined, diplomatic, and also he knows how to talk to his wife. He did not say, I will keep her here, I won't take her. He says only for a single night, let her remain here. The voice of the strong, rough man, that is Job, shook. Outwardly he looks rough, but inwardly he has a very kind and generous heart, especially towards children. And he turned his head away so that the moisture in his eyes might not be seen by Mrs. Thompson. She did not answer, but a soft feeling crept into her heart. Joyce is feeling sad, he is feeling sympathetic for Maggie when because of his wife's attitude. He turned his face and tears were falling. This gesture brought a soft feeling into the wife's heart. The wife is hard-hearted, bitter, but she now became a little bit tender and soft. Look at her kindly, Jane. Speak to her kindly, said Job. Think of her dead mother and the loneliness, the pain, the sorrow that must be on all her coming life. Think of her future. She has nobody. She's lonely. She's helpless. She cannot move. So show some generosity or consideration or kindness to Maggie. The softness of his heart gave unwanted eloquence to his lips. He was able to speak very well, eloquently, very impressively. Unwanted means unusual. So usually he did not speak with such eloquence, with such grace, with such determination. Mrs. Thompson did not reply, but presently turned towards the little chamber where her husband had deposited Maggie. He had placed her on her bed and, pushing open the door, went quietly in. She went to look at Maggie. Joe did not follow. Again he is diplomatic. He did not go behind his wife. He saw that her state had changed. He realized immediately that her attitude towards Maggie had changed. She is beginning to show some sympathy to the sick child, and felt that it would be best to leave her alone with the child. So he went to his shop, which stood near the house, and worked until the dusky evening. He worked in the shop till evening, and he left Maggie, the sick child, and his wife alone, because that was the best thing to do. And worked until dusky evening, released him from labor. He stopped his work only in the evening. Released means set him free from his work. Labor is his work, that is mending the wheels of vehicles. A light shining through the little chamber window was the first object that attracted Joe's attention on turning towards the house. He saw that there was a light in Maggie's room, and Mrs. Thompson, his wife, had placed it there. So this was a good sign. It was a good omen, which shows that Jane, at first she refused to take Maggie, but now she is slowly becoming kind. Her heart is touched with Maggie's patience and helplessness, and she turns to help Maggie. It was a good omen. The path led him by the windows, and when opposite, he could not help pausing to look in. He looked into the window to see what was happening between his wife and Maggie. It was now dark enough outside to screen him from observation. He could watch what was happening in the room where Maggie was without being seen. So that is without observation, without being seen by his wife and Maggie. Maggie lay a little raised on the pillow with a lamp shining full upon her face. Mrs. Thompson was sitting by the bed talking to the child. The light was there, the light was on Maggie's face, and Mrs. Thompson was talking to Maggie. But her back was towards the window, so that her countenance was not seen. Countenance is face. Her back was towards the window, and Joe could not see her face, Jane's face. From Maggie's face, therefore, Joe must read the character of their intercourse, the nature of the conversation. Intercourse here is the conversation between his wife and the sick child Maggie. He saw that her eyes were intently fixed upon his wife. Maggie was looking very eagerly at Jane. That now and then a few words came, as if in answer from her lips. That her expression was sad but tender. Mrs. Thompson was asking some questions and Maggie was replying, and the look on the face was sad and full of feeling, full of sympathy, full of kindness. But he saw nothing of the bitterness or pain. He did not see any bitterness or pain in his wife. She had a very sad and compassionate look, a kind, generous look. A deep drawn breath was followed by one of relief as a weight lifted itself from his heart. He breathed. He was comforted. He was relieved because he felt as if a big weight was lifted from his heart. He was not sure whether his wife would accept Maggie and keep her there because she's helpless, she's crippled, she cannot move. But now he is sure that his wife was kind to Maggie. His wife was touched by Maggie's helplessness. On entering, Joey did not go immediately to the little chamber. Again, he is diplomatic. He did not go into the room where Maggie was. His heavy tread about the kitchen brought his wife somewhat hurriedly from the room where she had been with Maggie. All this time, Jane, the wife, was with Maggie. And when she heard his step in the kitchen, Joe's step in the kitchen, she immediately came to him. Joey thought it best not to refer to the child, nor to manifest any concern in regard to her. Again, notice how diplomatic Joe is. He did not refer to the child. He did not even express any concern for Maggie. How soon will supper be ready? He asked. He is very professional. Right now, answered Mrs. Thompson, beginning to bustle about. There was no asperity in her voice. There was no harshness. There was no rudeness. After washing from his hands and face, the dust and soil of work, his hands and face were dusty because he had been working with the wheels. Joey left the kitchen and went to the little bedroom. A pair of large bright eyes looked up at him from the snowy bed, that is the white clean sheet. Looked at him tenderly, gratefully, pleadingly. This is how Maggie looked at Joey, tenderly, with kindness, gratefully, with thankfulness, pleadingly, begging that she would be kept there in his house. How his heart swelled in his bosom. He's thrilled, he's excited, he's feeling happy. With what a quicker motion came the heartbeats. Joey sat down and now for the first time, examining the thin frame carefully under the lamplight, saw that it was an attractive face. That is Maggie's face. He sat down and he also saw that Maggie was a little bit comforted because his wife had been kind to her, and she is happy. Joey sat down, and now for the first time he looked at Maggie's face. He saw that it was an attractive face, a beautiful face, full of childish sweetness, which suffering had not been able to obliterate. Obliterate means wipe away, remove. It was a beautiful, sweet, childish face, in spite of the suffering which Maggie had to face. So, the childish, sweet simplicity, innocence of that child was not wiped away, was not obliterated or removed by the suffering which Maggie faced, even at such a small age. "Your name is Maggie," he said, as he sat down and took her soft little hand in his. "Yes, sir." Her voice struck a chord that quivered in a low strain of music. The moment Maggie spoke to him and said that her name, yes, sir, she said that there was again a bond of love, a bond of affection between Joe and Maggie. "Have you been sick long?" "Yes, sir." What a sweet patience was in her tone. For such a long time she had been sick, but she was suffering all the sickness, all the pain very patiently. And this sweetness and patience was seen in her tone when Maggie replied, "Yes, sir." "Has the doctor been to see you?" He used to come, but not lately." "No, sir." "Have you any pain?" "Sometimes, sir, but not now." Now she is comforted, she feels safe in the house, and so she does not feel the physical pain. "When had you the pain?" "This morning my side ached and my back hurt when you carried me." That is Joe. Remember, Joe carried the sick child to his home. "It hurts you to be lifted or moved about." "Yes, sir." "Your side doesn't ache now?" "No, sir." "Does it ache a great deal?" "Do you feel a lot of pain?" "Yes, sir. But it hasn't ached any since I have been on this soft bed." This is the first time that she is sleeping on a soft, clean bed, and that love and concern and care which she is receiving from Joe and also from Jane to some extent. "The soft bed feels good?" Joe is asking. "Oh yes, sir, so good." What a satisfaction mingled with gratitude was in her voice. She was so happy, she was so grateful, because Joey brought her to his house and kept her on a bed which was clean and soft. That little thing, that small thing was enough to make that child grateful and happy. "Supper is ready," said Mrs. Thompson, looking into the room a little while afterwards. Joe glanced from his wife's face to that of Maggie. She understood him and answered, "She can wait until we are done. Then I will bring her something to eat." This is Jane Thompson speaking, and she is saying that Maggie can wait till we have eaten and then I will bring her something. There was an effort of indifference on the part of Mrs. Thompson, but her husband had seen her through the window and understood that the coldness was assumed. Now, Mrs. Thompson, there is a change of heart in her, and Joey understood that when he looked through the window at how his wife was looking at Maggie. He understood that there was a change of heart, and he understood that Mrs. Thompson was attitude towards Maggie had changed. She wanted Maggie to be kept in the house. She wanted to show love and care towards Maggie. She felt sorry for Maggie, but he kept quiet about that. There was an effort of, and she also pretended that she did not care much about Maggie, because earlier she had refused strongly to let Maggie remain in the house. There was an effort at indifference on the part of Mrs. Thompson, but her husband had seen her through the window. Her husband knew and understood that the coldness was assumed. Joey waited after sitting down at the table for his wife to introduce the subject uppermost in both of their thoughts, but she kept silent on that theme. Joey wanted his wife to tell him when Maggie should be taken to the poorhouse, but he kept quiet and she did not refer to it at all, because there is a change of attitude towards Maggie. But she kept silent on that theme. Theme is taking Maggie to the poorhouse for many minutes, and he maintained a like reverse. He also did not talk about the poorhouse at all. At last she said abruptly, "What are you going to do with that child?" "I thought you understood me that she was going to the poorhouse," replied Joey, as if surprised at her question. So Mrs. Thompson is asking, "What are you going to do with Maggie?" And Joey said, "I thought you had already decided that she should go to the poorhouse." Mrs. Thompson looked rather strangely at her husband for a few moments, and then dropped her eyes. The subject was not again referred to during the meal. She did not say anything. Whether they should take Maggie or keep Maggie there, she did not say anything. Because at first she had been so determined to take Maggie. At its close, Mrs. Thompson toasted. The subject was not again referred to during the meal. At its close, Mrs. Thompson toasted a slice of bread, softened it with milk and butter, adding to this a cup of tea, she took them into Maggie and held a small waiter on which she had placed them. That is, she placed them on a tray and she took this food to Maggie, while the hungry child ate with every sign of pleasure. She is so happy because she had been hungry, she had been neglected by her mother, and now Mrs. Thompson giving her bread and milk and butter made her so happy. She was so thankful. "Is it good?" asked Mrs. Thompson, seeing with what a keen relish the food was eaten. Maggie was eating the food with such appetite because she had not eaten such clean, good food. She was neglected by her own mother. The child paused with a cup in her hand and answered with a look of gratitude that evoked to new life old human feelings which had been slumbering in her heart for half a score of years. We'll stop there for this class. We'll continue in the next.